Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. My name is Mills Forney. I'm a member of the Ward 6 NPA Steering Committee. I'll quickly introduce Steering Committee. Dale?
Dale Azaria.
Romeo Von Herman.
Nancy Harkins. We have Anita on the line.
Hi.
Hi, Anita.
Hi, Anita. Thank you. So before...
Charlie and Barbara.
Oh, yes, introduce yourself.
Barbara, she's her pronouns. I'm the City of Burlington NPA liaison.
Charlie.
And I'm Charlie G. I work for Town Meeting Television. Thank you.
I'm behind the camera. Thank you, Charlie. So as we always do, we want to start with introductions as we just did, but also announcements. If there's any announcements from anyone here, we'd love to hear them.
Mill, oh, go ahead. You start,
No,
Nancy.
no.
You had your hand up first. Nancy.
Okay. I think everybody remembers that last town meeting day, we voted overwhelmingly in favor of a charter change for Burlington to ban guns in bars. Well, quick update, that bill is still sitting in committee. It was passed in the Senate, the full Senate passed it, but it still needs to go through the House. It's probably not going to get voted on in the House until after a crossover, which is about a month away, 5 weeks away. But now would be a really good time to reach out to Speaker Kerwinski and our own reps, Tiff and Bram, and tell them that you support the measure and keep it on their radar.
Are there any bar owners who want guns in their establishment?
Oh,
Because can't bar owners unilaterally say no guns in my
well,
house?
they can. That's a good question. We have a lot of support from the industry, and it would allow in Burlington, it would allow bar owners to have and staff, designated staff to have firearms on the premise, but not patrons. And currently, bar owners can post a sign that firearms are prohibited, but it's the enforcement would be stronger from Burlington PD if it could be more effective if it was actually a city ordinance, which this would make it. So, and last year, just a reminder, it was passed by almost 90% of Burlington voters at town meeting day. Approved.
Thank you, Nancy. Alan?
Yeah, I'm Alan Matson. I'm the ward clerk for Ward 6. And, I could kind of read you what it means to be the ward clerk, but overall, it's the general responsibility of the ward clerk to run elections. And town meeting day on March 3rd, we will be holding a city election. And so I want to talk a little bit about the election. I'll begin by saying one of my responsibilities is getting assistant election officials. We have 3 elected inspectors besides myself. So there's 4 of us who sort of oversee the entire process, but we hire we literally hire because it is a paid position to work as an assistant election official on election day. And, we have shifts. There's some like 2, 4, 6, 8-hour shifts to cover the day, which includes setup and running the election during the day and then processing the ballots after the election. So for those of us who are inspectors or ward clerks, it's about an 18 to 20-hour day. And we need to bring in folks to work with us. So if you're interested in working as an election official and haven't signed up already, you can see me at some point this evening. I can get you further information. I'll get your contact info and then send to you where we have our signups. Our positions right now, I've been connecting with people who have been involved in elections and are about 80%, 90% full. We're doing really well with signups. I need to get as complete a list as possible to the city hall for the next for the city council meeting. But we always have a few signups that come in after that. Anyway, it's a great time to be part of the process, you can get like I said, get a hold of me. I can get you descriptions on the various different positions that we fill for election day. The next thing I want to point out is that every registered voter in Burlington will be receiving a mail ballot. And if I understood the city correctly, they're probably going to mail them out around the 14th or the 15th, somewhere in there. And I would encourage everyone on a couple fronts. First off, if you are going to vote by mail, please try to vote early because the postal system is not as prompt as it used to be. And so I would encourage people to get their ballots mailed in quickly. There are also drop boxes. There'll be drop box here, right in front of the building. There'll be drop box downtown, City Hall, various different places. Likewise, I can't think of where else with the boxes are in Ward 6, but you can drop your ballots off. Then the last thing I'd say is if you do come to the polls, which will be at Edmonds Elementary Gym on election day, I would recommend that you bring that ballot with you. If you don't, you do have to sign an affidavit saying you didn't vote twice. Pretty standard thing to do. But if you do bring your ballot in, it saves resources. Likewise, you can bring back the envelope that's stamped. We can use them again. And you can also expedite the process. Even if you decide you just want to drop it off that day, you can do that at a box at the polling place and you don't have to take any more time. We are processing those ballots as well, day of. Make sure you take a look. You have to put it into the correct envelope. You have to sign it. So we don't want to have to spoil ballots. Anyway, we have that election coming up. And a quick reminder, this is a big year for elections. There will be 2 more during the year. There will be a primary in August and there'll be a general election in November. And, I think there already have been some discussions about how are we planning for any type of disruption or security or making sure votes are legitimized and making sure, certain parties or whatever the, appropriate uses are made of the ballot or ballot lists. And all these discussions are being had by the various different ward clerks, likewise Secretary of State Hanses. These discussions are going on. So if you have any concerns there, feel free to bring them up. You can either do it, through me or through Sarah Montgomery, who is the assistant clerk who's in charge of elections at City Hall. So that's a bit of a discussion of elections and, look forward to seeing people at the polls several times this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Al. Any other announcements? Okay. With that, we can move on.
Just quickly, pass around a petition. This on behalf of Proposition 0. We are trying to bring initiatives, referendums, and advisory questions to Burlington. Burlington is the only city in Vermont that doesn't have direct mechanisms for direct democracy. Every other city and town that have either one or more of these mechanisms of direct democracy. Some of them even have recall, but we're not trying to get recalls here. We're just trying to do initiatives, referendum, and advisory question. So if you would support that, I will be passing this around. And we're also looking for volunteers to be at the polls to collect signatures on town meeting day. We're hoping to put this charter change on the ballot for the November election. So thank you.
Thank you, Bree. And I should have said at the top, if you're watching online, you are missing out on some fantastic food. Fareed and People's Kitchen make for our monthly meeting every month, and it's fantastic. So thank you to Fareed. And the next item on our list here is the addition of the nomination of a new member of our steering committee. Riley, Hannah, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Hannah. I am a 3-month at this point resident of Burlington. My husband Alejandro and I just moved from Atlanta, where I was for the last 7.5 years. And when I was in Atlanta, I spent about 4 years on my NPU, almost an NPA, neighborhood planning unit. Feels similar, but because it was Georgia, a little bit less democracy. And yeah, I've loved coming to the meetings, getting to know folks, getting a better feel of the community. And yeah, excited to help support these wonderful volunteers who are already doing all this good work.
Thanks so much, Anna. And with that, maybe just take a moment to, if anyone's unfamiliar with the steering committee, it is a fully volunteer position. There's typically around, 5 to 6 of us or so. This is the case in every NPA. And our role is essentially to help organize these meetings. We get requests from city officials, we get requests from organizations around town to present to this NPA, and we just have to organize that. We also look to engage the community and ask people if they'd like to add anything or present anything. We try to come up with ideas when we don't necessarily have agenda items that are coming into us. So we think about what topics would we like to cover on a monthly basis or over the course of the year. So just speaking for myself, it's been a few years that I've done the NPA steering committee, but I've learned a lot about the city and there's a lot more to learn, but it's just a fantastic way to learn and educate yourself and also to make an impact on our neighborhood. So that's all to say that we will hold a vote for Hannah in just a moment. And then also looking into this fall, a few of us are term limited. I think is it 3 years, 4 years?
Yeah, it's 3 years or 4 years.
3 or 4 years. Yeah, we might be term limited. Yes, yeah.
Bylaws, which I haven't looked at
Yes,
for a long
either.
time.
But at one point we did look and we were aware that a few of us are coming up in end terms. So we would welcome anyone who's interested in participating and joining us the opportunity just at least to talk about it. And that'll be beginning this fall. So I think with that, let's take a moment to hold a vote on the nomination of Hannah Riley.
And can I just give a reminder?
Yeah.
Any Ward 6 resident is automatically a member of the neighborhood planning assembly and therefore is automatically eligible to vote. It's not like the steering committee votes.
Sure.
And also people who live in other wards don't get to vote. So just
Good
to make that
clarification.
clear of who can vote and who can't.
Thank you very much.
Can you also let the people online know how they can vote?
Yes. I think, Barbara, you said holding up hands or doing the hand motion on Zoom is fine. If you're not able to do that, you can speak up as well. But you can just hit the raise hand button on the bottom of the Zoom window if you'd like to vote aye. So with that, we have the nomination of Hannah Riley. Those in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it. Hannah, congratulations. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. Well, thank you very much. We're excited to have you. Next up, we have a discussion of an open letter to the city council. So I'll just read the agenda verbatim here. Shall the Ward 6 NPA express its support for the sentiments expressed in the open letter to city council that was presented to us on our December 4th, 2025 meeting? I'll read the text of the letter. There's also a proposed amendment. I'll pass it over to Romeo, who has proposed that amendment. It's also available on Zoom if you'd like to read it as well. We passed around copies of both versions here in the room, so feel free to read that as I read this. The original open letter to City Council, which was presented to us in December, reads, Dear Burlington City Council and Mayor Mulvaney Stanek, Democrats on the City Council blocked the AFC, which is the Apartheid-Free Community Pledge advisory question, from going to voters 2 years in a row, despite thousands of Burlington residents signing petitions to put the pledge on the ballot. In April 2025, the council unanimously approved a resolution for protecting free speech on Palestine, and it is time to rectify the fact that our free speech rights have been repeatedly denied. There should be a democratic vote on adopting the pledge. The Apartheid-Free Community Pledge is, we affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality for the Palestinian people and all people, and we oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression. And we declare ourselves an apartheid-free community, and to that end, we pledge to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation. We, the undersigned, support the Apartheid-Free Community Pledge and demand that the Burlington City Council place the AFC advisory referendum question on the town meeting day 2026 ballot. That is the letter as it was presented to us from folks in the community that have shared this. I will pass that before we take a vote on it. There is a proposed amendment. I'll pass to Romeo to read that.
Thank you. The proposed amendment is as it goes. Dear City Council and Mayor Emma Mulvaney Stanek, we, the Ward 6 Neighborhood Planning Assembly, write in response to City Council's most recent vote regarding the AFC pledge. Over the past several years, the AFC advisory question did not advance to the ballot despite securing the required petition signatures from Burlington residents. In April 2025, the City Council unanimously adopted a resolution affirming protection for free speech In light of that action, we believe that it's appropriate to continue the discussion around the AFC pledge and to provide an opportunity for broader community engagement. We respect and recognize the council's vote and its role in setting policies, and we appreciate the seriousness with which matters are considered. At the same time, we believe that it would be constructive to provide members of the NPA, including the steering committee as well as South District and the wider community, an opportunity to weigh in the council's vote and its implications. We, the Ward 6 NPA alternate pledge, or the AFC pledge, is as goes. We affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality for all people, and we oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression. And we declare ourselves a apartheid-free community, and to that end, we pledge to join others in working to end support for apartheid policies at home and around the world. We, the undersigned, support continued dialogue around the AFC pledge. Thank you very much and for your consideration. Ward 6, respectfully.
Thank you, Romeo. Just for everyone's awareness, we're very aware this is a very important issue. It's been hotly debated. It's been hotly discussed. With that in mind, we want to be mindful of our broader agenda. So we do want to welcome thoughts, perspectives on this topic, while ensuring that we also were able to hit our other items. With that in mind, we've made the decision to limit remarks to 2 minutes per person. That way we're able to share it. Would love to hear anyone and everyone's feedback on this. Following everyone's input, we will do a vote on both the amendments and just to say to our understanding of the parliamentary rules. And if anybody has additional insights, please let us know. According to Robert's rules, we will first vote on the amendments, yay or nay. We'll vote on that. And then if it succeeds, we will then go on to vote on, that will then move it to the final votes. If it fails, then we'll just move on to the final vote, which will be the original proposal. So that is our understanding of it. With that, I'll open the floor for any comments, thoughts, perspectives on this issue.
I guess I feel strongly that the inclusion of both equality for the Palestinian people and support to Israel's apartheid regime is an important part of what the AFC pledge is. I understand that this is a symbolic vote at this point, but it feels like a completely different question, this amendment. There is support for continued dialogue, whereas this one, which I believe the other NPAs or wards have voted on, say we support this pledge as opposed to dialogue around it. And I feel strongly that we should vote yes on the one that specifically talks about Palestine and ending support to Israel's apartheid regime, since I think that's the meat of what the AFC is. So I'll just say that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Romeo.
Thank you. One of the key reasons why I brought this forward is I see this as not necessarily as an inclusive state. I know this is the AFC's pledge with respect to Israel. Apartheid is a global issue, not a just, and I know what the Palestinian people are going through is horrible and unfortunate. That being said, the AFC pledge has been voted down multiple times in the council. And I think it's important to respect the council's vote while at the same time opening room for discussion. That being said, the main reason why I put this as a community discussion and not particular country is to open up a room for everybody to talk about this rather than it being one group of people to talk about this issue. So that's my only view. Yeah.
Thank you, Romeo.
Yep.
I would be concerned about having it. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Alejandro Fernandez. I would be concerned about it having it be so watered down with no specific examples of what we're talking about, because it just becomes undecipherable for anyone coming behind us to understand what we were actually talking about. And so my other concern is you recognize, or the amendment recognizes that it is a quote horrible and unfortunate situation, but makes no mention of why we believe that and what's actually happening. My other concern is from American history, which is that when Brown v. Board of Education was decided, and there was a sort of now infamous footnote that says, yes, integration has to happen with, quote, all deliberate speed. And what we know that led to was an incredibly slow process of integration. And so when I see language that goes from there should be a democratic vote on adopting the pledge changed to we believe it's appropriate to have continuing discussion, I hear all deliberate speed. I hear let's not actually do anything to vote on this thing. Let's just keep having conversations in dark corners that reach no one's ears and make sure that this never actually sees the light of day.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Sir, you mentioned, but you raised your hand there.
I did, okay, I
Yeah.
thought you were looking.
Mike.
Yeah, I think your comment is.
If you don't mind introducing yourself as well.
So Perceptive, correct. I can probably use this one. Hi, Paul Fleckenstein. I've been part of the Apartheid-Free Community Committee in Burlington that has been presenting to the NPAs. And I think that really nails it, what you said, what's going on here. We saw that there was a counter resolution like this one offered at the city council for dialogue and was counter to adopting the Apartheid-Free Community Pledge resolution and put it on the ballot, right? So our letter and kind of what we've been bringing is 2 points. One, it's a chance to weigh in on the denial of the democratic process. The Democrats are blocking on the city council in order to protect, defend, whitewash, however you want to put it, Israel. Okay. I can tell you from years of working with the city council, no amount of dialogue is going to make a difference because the point is defending and whitewashing what Israel is doing. Anything that mentions Israel or Palestine is going to get rejected. So then we have something like this, which is normalizing the discussion. We can accept, you know, it's just a normal discussion. Let's discuss apartheid, genocide, ethnic cleansing in Palestine. You know, we got two sides to the issue, you know, so I think that people are, one, upset about the denial of democracy, and we want to do something. We want to take a stand. We want to do boycott, divestment, and sanctions. We want to take an active role in determining what happens in this crucial issue. And, you know, people are seeing what's happening in Minneapolis and the denial of democracy from the Trump administration with ICE agents, anti-Semitic, attacking people trained in Israel. You know, so I think people are making these connections and we want a chance to make a statement on that.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So, I'm sitting here listening hard, still unsure of how I'm voting on this. And so I'm just going to say my thoughts out loud because maybe that'll help me figure it out and maybe it'll help anybody else figure it out. On the one hand, I do find it troubling that city council voted not to put this on the ballot when the signatures were collected. And, you know, other Vermont communities have voted on it. And it is clearly an issue that weighs on many people's minds really heavily. That's on the one side. On the other side, I am not convinced that the Israeli government and the plight of the Palestinian people is unique in the many horrors that surround us in the globe. And I'm not sure what the benefit is of calling out this one atrocity. And I do recognize it as an atrocity among too many atrocities. And one of the things that I like about the alternate version is we can call it whitewashing. And I think in some ways that is a fair characterization of it. But at the same time, I don't know that what's going on in Israel and Palestine is the worst thing, and I'm not sure why I would vote for that one and not the others. You know, not what's going on in Syria, not what's going on in Iran, not what's going on in Ukraine, not what's going on in Venezuela and so many other places. So I find this really hard. That's my thoughts.
Anyone else?
I appreciate it. My name is Mila Grant. I'm visiting from Ward 2. I am also the city councilor for the Central District of Burlington, which is Wards 2 and 3. I voted for the apartheid-free pledge. We have councilors who don't understand what the word apartheid means, and that is appalling to me. We have councilor who could not explain how it would improve the way we govern, right? Deeply disturbing to me. I understand the concern with all the horrors that we're seeing across the world. Why do we pay attention to this particular one? And I would say that what we have to be looking at right now is what we can and cannot control. And given what's happening at the federal level, everyone needs to have a full understanding that being involved in what is happening in government at every level affects us. We know all throughout the state of Vermont, money that was previously promised in terms of grants and other things has been pulled back. We have complete uncertainty as to how we can commit to people and projects that are crucial for our communities because of the chaos at that level and because of the way that they're holding on and manipulating with money. When we look at the genocide that is occurring against the Palestinian people in the Gaza and the West Bank, we are paying for that. There is a direct funneling of money from our country, from the taxes that are taken out of all our paychecks to fund this genocide. And people have to be willing to take an honest look. Like, if you don't think it's a genocide, then I would ask you to think to yourself, what is your definition of genocide? I personally look at the 1948 the Genocide Convention. And when I look at what they defined and they said never again, they meant never again for anybody. So when we're looking at accepted numbers of over 70,000 dead, over 170,000 injured, we know those are gross underestimates due to the destruction. So I would say that this is something we do need to look at, because while I am appalled by what China is doing to the Muslims, the Uyghurs there, we're not financing that. We're not financing that. We are financing what is going on in Israel. And the last thing I'll say is we got a draft thrown at us today that's supposed to be an anti-ICE draft. And anyone who knows me knows that I believe that. And I read this draft and not one mention of Black or brown people. How do we treat our neighbors? We have neighbors here who fled their countries. We have neighbors here who were ethnically cleansed. This is about our neighbors too. Thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. Yes.
Can you come to a mic?
Yes. Will you introduce yourself?
Any mic?
Yeah, any mic should be fine, Roger.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not in.
Okay, great. It's just for, great. Okay. My name is Alyssa Brita. I am a resident of Ward 3, so thank you for having me. I've been someone who has been working on this apartheid-free resolution for over a year now. And I just wanted to speak to some things that were said in the room. I think that we can't go back on what the pledge says because of what some other folks have said in terms of watering down, whitewashing. Our line is very clear on what we believe and what we're talking about. And I think it's apparent that that is clear and we are consistent with that framing and transparency. Because there are multiple struggles and issues in the world that are horrible, it doesn't mean we shouldn't take a stand against one. It's also true that, you know, taking a stand against one issue is taking a step towards all struggles because all struggles are connected, just like, you know, ICE in our communities. And this specifically with Israel and Palestine, and Israel's apartheid and what is now happening with our country and ICE is super specifically connected. We are very connected to this issue because our labor, our tax dollars are funding Israel's government, meaning it's enforcing, you know, their governmental tactics of apartheid system that has now led to a genocide. We're currently watching that happen right now with our tax dollars. And multiple international human rights organizations have deemed Israel's government as an apartheid system and now a genocide. So thank you very much.
Anyone else? Any other comments, questions?
Just take one thing really quick.
Yeah, of course. Thanks.
Microphone.
Sorry. So my name is Fareed. I live in Ward 5. I'm actually encouraged to hear what Dale said about being troubled, how the council just ignore like the wishes of the voters to have this voted on. And I see it as like a class issue, actually, like regardless of the issue itself, just the fact that 12 people, like, some of the 12 people are able to hold up a discussion that we all want to have. It's very troubling to me. And now it's like, it is one of the motivation for me to like really push for a charter change so that advisory questions that meets the threshold doesn't even need it goes onto the ballot automatically. So again, if you haven't looked at the petition that was being circulated, please take a look and please consider volunteering this town meeting day so we can change the charter. So not only will we be able to put advisory questions, we could put binding initiatives and also to repeal existing ordinance by majority vote. I think this will give more power to working class voters because let's admit it, like not everybody can afford to run or even to come to this meeting. I think like it takes a certain privilege for people to be able to pay attention to politics the way that we all do, and even more so when it's at the city council level. But I think just to make sure our government still represents us, we need these checks and balances. We need the right democracy now. So thank you.
I'll share my own just personal comment as well. I think I find myself in a similar situation to Dale where there's a lot to learn about this topic and I find myself wrestling with it because I agree with almost everything that's been said tonight. I think when, the questions that I have related to this are come down to the execution or the implications of something like this. So we say, this maybe is a question for folks who know more than me. If we say ending support to Israel's apartheid regime, who determines, is that the government forever, right? Is that based on the current behavior of the government? Is it, sure, but the regime, and the question would be then, is the regime the current elected officials? And I raise that because I'm personally horrified by what our president is doing right now, both in the US and around the world. And I guess the question I have is just a clarification, really. Is this pledge specific to the current elected representatives, current elected government of Israel as it stands now, or is it to the state of Israel, right, long term? So just a clarification, and for folks who know more about this, I'd welcome any insight on that. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think as long as there is an apartheid system in place in Israel, it doesn't matter who is running the country. Israel is a government that runs on expelling Palestinian people from their homes, and they should not be expelled, and they should have a right to return and have the same rights and accessibility to moving around the country, medical care, et cetera, that would make it not an apartheid system. And so therefore, you know, if someone else came into the government, not Benjamin Netanyahu, but consistently was okay with the apartheid system and implemented that, then this would still be true. I think that right now it's a non-binding. We all have to remember this is a non-binding advisory pledge. So it's really a statement of intent right now, getting a feel for how our community feels and believes. And then we would continue figuring out, you know, what this means for our town and how we can take it a step farther. So, for example, in the town of Thetford, they're talking about stopping contract with Caterpillar, the company who demolishes Palestinian homes in Israel, so that we're not putting money into a company that is doing something that we don't believe in based on this apartheid system. So that is one example of how we can, you know, take that next step if that is what, you know, the community votes on. But again, it's a non-binding resolution.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Apartheid regime also has a very specific historical meaning and legal meaning. It means laws that are on the books that make a distinction between one group of people and another. America was replete with laws that had very clear apartheid effect. As Americans, we know what apartheid is, and it's not a nebulous feature of government. It is a very specific set of rules and laws. When you go to Israel, the apartheid system there is set up in two ways. One, by law, with distinctions made between who can pass and live in what areas, but also by a military force. There are literal checkpoints, walls, gates, armed people, making sure that some people can move freely throughout the country and others can't. So it is not saying I'm against Israel. It's saying insofar as Israel perpetrates apartheid discrimination, we support ending our support. You know, and so it's not. There's no part of it that says, you know, I'm against a state that is formed so that, you know, Jewish people can have the majority or anything like that. It's really clear about what it's troubled by.
Thank you very much.
I was just gonna say, we're at 7:09.
Okay.
We still want to vote, right? So
Indeed. Well, we do the last quick two comments, or just we do a short one? Yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Actually, if you don't mind, Anita, you haven't had a chance to speak yet. Would welcome your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I just want to point out that the International Court of Justice has ruled that this is a genocide. Uh-oh. I hear the echo. It's okay. Yeah, I don't believe that they've said that about any other situation currently. So it's the International Court of Justice. It is not just us. Thanks.
Thank you, Anita. We do a quick additional comment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. My thing is, I really want to throw a cautionary tale out there. The definition of doing the same thing over and over again, insanity rather, is the definition of doing the same thing over and over again. It is important that we don't get hung up on one country. As I said, I'm a kid that grew up in a civil war torn zone in Africa. And it is really important to broaden perspectives. So I really just want to throw that caution to the tail out there, because we don't want to be back next year at the same spot trying to get a vote and then turn down again. So just want to throw that out there. So
Yeah. Thank you. Hannah, good.
I'll be very quick. I think this is in response to what you just said, and also Dale, what you said. An example, if we were having a meeting on cancer research and how important it is to work towards a cure for cancer, I don't think it would be appropriate to say, so you support heart disease and leukemia, and you know, there is a space and a time to discuss specifics, particularly given how deeply involved the American government is here. If there is interest in putting forth similar pledges around other horrifying, examples of war and authoritarian regimes and various atrocities around the globe, then I think we would welcome that. Being specific in this way is not to the exclusion of these other issues.
All lives matter.
Exactly. All in there.
Thank you, Hannah. I think we know we want to make space for the vote. Any other comments or questions on this issue? Okay, I think with that, again, my understanding of the process is we'll vote first on the amendment. So I think we'll just do a simple, we'll do a hand vote. I'm sorry? Yes, yeah, and appreciate that, and thank you. And so just as a reminder, because this is the Ward 6 NPA, of course, only folks who are Ward 6 residents can vote. So first, we'll take a vote. Those in favor say aye, those against say nay. For the amended version of the proposal shared by Romeo. And we'll raise hands. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So those in favor of the proposed amendment to the resolution, raise your hands and say aye.
Do you mind reading the amended? I apologize. I am a Ward 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here, we'll give you a copy.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. We can pause a moment so you can peruse.
Okay, so this is what we're voting on.
Yes. Yeah. So first we're voting, just for clarity, we're going to vote on the proposed amendment first. If that succeeds, we'll kind of move on to a final vote. If it doesn't succeed, we'll still move on to a final vote based on the original proposal. We'll give you just a moment.
The original one.
Yeah. We'll wait just a moment.
Sign.
Oh, Marie just got here.
Yeah.
That's stuff. It's
Yeah.
coming.
Okay. I think in the interest of time, we'll go ahead and move to the vote. All those in favor of the proposed amendment, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All of those opposed? Okay, March, should do this again. Let me count because this is gonna be close. Okay. Apologies. Okay, let's do this one more time. Those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. Those opposed? Yes. We have one.
Mills online votes?
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Nita, I see you. Thank you for that reminder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Ward 6 resident, 7, 8, 9.
In the hat, back there.
Just
making sure.
I believe so. Yes. Yes, thank you. 9 to 5, I believe. So the proposed amendments does not move on. We will move on to the final vote on the open letter. Those in favor, raise your hands and say aye.
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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, 6, 7. Gosh, thank you. Those opposed? Okay, 1.
Mills, did you count my online vote?
I did. Yes,
You
thank
did.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we had 7 there. And those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The ayes have it. And we have, will you read the proper language here? Thank you. 7 to 6 was my count. That was so based on this approval, the Ward 6 NPA will express its support for the sentiments expressed in the open letter to the City Council that was presented to us on December 4th, 2025 meeting. Thank you very much, everybody, for sharing your thoughts and perspectives on this. I really value the way you had this discussion. Moving on to our next item on the agenda, shockingly right on time, 7:15. School budget presentation.
Keep your credit.
A little bit, yeah. Against the school budget presentation and candidate introduction. We have Clara Wool here with us, who I saw somewhere.
She was
She was here a moment ago.
Yeah, she'll be.
Yes, thank you.
And Jeff.
Who is a candidate for re-election, and of course, then we have Jeff Wick. So we have about a half an hour for this. I'm sorry, 15 minutes for this. And I'll hand it over to you. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm Jeff Wick, school board member, vice chair of the board, and of course Claire Wolf, chair of the board. And we're here to give you a brief update about the school budget and also try to answer any questions you may have about the budget. I think we've got generally good news, as you may know, over the last number of years. The taxpayers have been very supportive of our schools and our kids. And things have gone really well. As you may know, last year, the school funding is, as we all know, complicated, right? Last year, there was a decrease in our education property tax rates by a little over 4%. This year, we're expecting a modest increase of under 5%. So tax impact is expected to be 4.7% on the education portion of your property tax bill. Budget growth is 4.47%. And how are we working to control our costs? I've been really. What's that? Go live. If you want to. No, just. Over the last several years, there has been a trend of decreased enrollment, just modest, not dramatic. And we've been reacting to that. Oh, there we are. Are you controlling that? No. You're doing a great job. Thanks. You'll see our decreased enrollment right there. And we have been trimming modestly as appropriate. And we're continuing to do that this year. And we're very pleased as a board with our superintendent and our chief financial officer. They've been very much on top of things and more than we have as a board, of course. They're really down in the details. And also something that's, I think, something we can be proud of as a city is our audit each year has been very clean, and we generally run at a slight surplus, which at $120 to $140 million budget, it's literally impossible to end up exactly where you budgeted. So it's nice to be a little bit in the surplus. We've been doing that for a number of years. So I think the general message is it is hard to control these costs, but I think we've been doing a good job. I want to read one or two things that the superintendent and his team wrote. How are we working to control these costs? Because everybody knows we read the newspaper, we watch, Vermont Public and all that. But our primary cost controlling measure is through staffing. This year's budget reduces 6.5 classroom teachers in response to a decline in enrollment. An additional 3.5 district office positions are also proposed for reduction. We'll also be reducing department budgets and restructuring some positions in the central office. We've faced reductions in each of the past 4 budget cycles. We have also worked to avoid any kind of mass layoffs by spreading these changes gradually over time. As a result, attrition and restructuring have enabled us to retain almost all teachers impacted by reductions in the past few years, and this remains our goal again. So that's that. But then interestingly enough, and I'm so excited about this personally, as you all may know, the high school is coming to completion, and we're expecting that in August, that's when all of our high schoolers will start at the new high school. But it's important to understand that we, the city of Burlington, have fully borne the costs of that project on our own, and that's reflected in our budget. And interestingly enough, in years past, many years past now, an increasingly number of years past now, the state used to offer some school construction aid to the tune of, I think, 30 cents on the dollar, more or less. That went away a number of years ago for whatever reason, politics and budgets. So we're paying for this all on our own, including the construction of the tech center, which is great. Wouldn't happen without us, as in the city. And so I just wanted to mention this about that. How does borrowing for this project the Burlington High School, Burlington Technical Center project impact our budget this year, the one you'll be voting on? Well, it turns out it has a great impact a dramatic impact on it. It says the school district has completed borrowing for this project. We were able to limit our total borrowing to $159 million, which is $6 million less than voters authorized. In other words, we went out for a $165 million bond and we only spent 159. So I think that's good news when we're your budget in that regard. The proposed budget includes, it's a lot of money, $13.5 million of debt service that represents the annual payment of our mortgage, if you will, for this project. So $13.5 million of our $140 million budget is because we have chosen, or needed to really, to build out what I think is a great new school for the city of Burlington. So I'm really proud of that. And the projected tax impact on your tax bills this year would have been 5.5% lower were it not for this debt service. So all of our anticipated increase and a little more is frankly due to, unfortunately, having to build a new school. So I just wanted to give everybody some context and information on that, but a couple more things and then I'll stop, which is the current year's budget. Just to know, how big is the school budget? School budgets are pretty big. Is $140 million. So I don't know, I've seen some mayor and city councilors. I don't know if our budget's bigger than yours now, if you count the electric department or not.
Well,
We won't count the electric department. But outside of the electric department, the school budget costs more than the city budget, interestingly enough. So anyway, that's kind of all I got. So I'll pass it over to Claire and then we'd be happy to take questions, but we're in full support of this budget. We're very proud of our superintendent and his financial team, and think we're going as modestly as possible.
Thanks. I was just, as Jeff spoke on those certain points, if we can start back in the beginning, just to cut, if there are some things that we did miss, but not, I thank you. We talked about budget wages. We have 7 bargaining units. This year, we signed a 3-year contract with our faculty, our teachers, and they have a 4.9% increase over the next 3 years. We are out of Chittenden County, 7 Chittenden County school districts. We are about 4th as far as the top. South Burlington is the highest paid, Essex, MMU, then we are next. Benefits, 8% increase in healthcare costs again. So if we're looking at a 5% increase in salaries and wages, and 8% in healthcare, that's a big increase that we have no control over. Even we have control over, but at the same time, even if we were to in negotiations potentially push back, negotiations really depend on, if you go to mediation, what the comps are throughout Chittenden County. And so we are still in the middle of the middle. So we would end up where we are. Debt service, as Jeff said, 6% of our budget, federal funding, and rent. We will have some rent savings. We will now, in this next year's budget, for the first time in 5 years, not be paying rent to Macy's and to other properties throughout Burlington, and outside at Karen's, our automotive, our BTC, because we will have a home, Institute Road. And as Jeff talked about the surplus. Next slide. Thanks. We talked about enrollment. Thank you, Jeff. We talked about declining enrollment does not have to do with people choosing other private schools. It just is, as we shared, and we've talked to city council as well. You know, we've tracked why people have left, and it's housing costs and the amazing housing that's offered at Market Street in South Burlington, where there's 2 to 3 bedroom apartments. We don't have a lot of those right now in the city of Burlington available, or the housing costs. So that is what seems to be driving the majority of our people away. Decrease in the number of refugees because of the current government, federal government. And next slide, thank you. Draft board guidance we give every year, pretty straightforward. We say limit growth. Next slide. Again, Jeff shared, this is what the actual budget looks like, and the increase, the the tax bill comes out in December, and the governor did recognize that he's going to award the Ed Fund with $75 million a buy down. Again, we keep talking about education reform and we're screaming healthcare reform. So without, addressing healthcare, we will constantly have these struggles with the analogy that school districts are out of control, and yet our funding has remained level over the last 3 years, 4 years. Next slide, thanks. This gives an overview of how we actually show you on the ballot. The AOE required us to include all federal dollars in our budget instead of just what we pull from the Ed Fund. So each year, the ballot language will show the total number. What we ask as a city, is the 109 number, and then the federal grants and the title, the grants and the title funds, the emergency secondary school rescue funds that are done now. That's the 31, and then the overall budget, like Jeff shared. Next slide. These are the cuts that we've been making. So each year we've reduced our faculty and staff and from the budget based on declining enrollment and based on evaluation for cost saving measures. So we are reducing our district by 10 full-time FTEs, as they're called, and those are listed there along with other district savings. We did present 4 budgets, the superintendent to the board, at the beginning of the school year, from, make no changes and be at a 7% increase or a 5% increase or a 4% increase. And then drastically, the item number 4 was to close an elementary school. So we are forecasting the roadmap for the future of what that looks like for us. So we are constantly reviewing what our demands are and what the affordability of our school district budget is for Burlingtonians, coupled with the municipal budget. But just want to be really clear that reducing these positions are impactful for sure. Next slide. Talking about prioritizing instruction. Those are all the things, our strategic plan, our goals, our academics, our curriculum, and within, not reducing too thin to not provide that robust academic, experience for all of our pre-K to 12th graders and beyond. We serve post-12th graders as well. Next slide. Our RISE allocation. Again, this is at each school, depending on each school's needs. We work with parent and community advisories with each of those schools and the principals. It has been a leader in the state as far as how we determine. It's not budgeting by advocacy. The loudest voice in the room does not get the most money. It's about needs in each of our schools and our student populations that make up those schools. Next slide. We talk about our investments over the course of the past 4 years. We're on a 5-year strategic plan, which will end in year 2027. Next slide. And then these are the impacts to you, the property owners. These are figures that we talk about that exist throughout the state, that we come up with why we come up with a 370 homestead and a $500,000 homestead to give perspective. Next slide. And this is the ballot language. So the one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, which is confusing, is it'll say, and if you don't mind, if we can go back to the number with all the slides in a minute of all the numbers across, it says 6.4% higher per pupil in education. As Jeff shared, it's 4.47, but when you go back to looking at our per pupil costs, we are up, keep going. Sorry, the bigger number, the per pupil cost is, there. We went up from 14,000 to 15,000. That's a 6.4% increase. And that's, again, state statute requires us to put that percentage in the budget, in the ballot language versus the actual property tax impact. So we can explain that if you need further. I do have takeaway sheets to share with your neighbors and yourselves to look at. And that all this information is on our website as well. We're available. Jeff represents Ward 5 and 6. I represent Ward 6. But happy to talk through all of these things that we've discussed here tonight. And another thing that on the ballot this year, this is ballot question number 1. Ballot question number 4 is about school commissioners receiving an honorarium or a stipend of $2,000. That equates to $50 a meeting. We have not, unlike other school boards in Chittenden County and throughout the state, and we as a city have honored civic roles in receiving stipends for participation. We felt that this is appropriate given we have school board members with children and childcare costs, and whether it's providing a meal, work meal from work to meeting, that we wanted to present that to the voters of Burlington. We cannot decide that for ourselves. City Council receives a $5,000 stipend. And we have done our research throughout Chittenden County, what school boards receive. Some school boards sometimes take in years that they're hit hard a break on their stipend. So I know that is currently on South Burlington. We did that this year, but we felt that this was important for us to attract school board members, of which we'll be having 4 new school board members running for school board this year. And that this is something that we believe would support engagement to run for this role. Does that make sense? So with that, and Jeff is a district position seat. We have 4 of those on the board. They are all up for reelection next year, but wards 1 through 8 are up for reelection this year, of which I'm up for reelection. So I am asking for your vote. This year, ballots are mailed out February 11th or on town meeting day. I have been serving for 8 years. I appreciate the opportunity in this role to work hard. I believe the consistency is critical at this time as we complete our high school and tech center campus with my working relationship with the superintendent and the board and my work at the state level during this incredibly challenging time with education reform in the state, working in partnership and collaboration with all the stakeholders to get it right over the course of my term is 2 more years as well. So thank you for your time. Hopefully we didn't go over. We're good.
Thanks. Within margin. Yeah. Thank you very much, Claire and Jeff, for that presentation and for your service to our community and for all that you do. We're a few minutes over, but I think we have time for just a couple of quick questions. I have one question for myself, but I'll direct it to others first. Go ahead.
RAS allocation. It reduces injustices throughout our education. So depending on where we want equity, it's an equity tool. Thank you.
I'm just curious in terms of, it's interesting to see the declining enrollment. Out of curiosity, is the capacity of new high school? What's the capacity of the new high school?
Great question. Thank you. Right now, we are at about 1,100 for capacity. That was the height of our capacity in 2018. And so we believe from the research we did over the last 6 years that in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, New England states, when a school was built, a public school was renovated or built, Winchester, Massachusetts, Dover, New Hampshire, many citizens of that community that had attended parochial or private schools ended up sending their students to the public school because of the new infrastructure and availability of the benefits it brought. opportunities.
Claire, do you know how many students can fit in the new school? And then does that include the tech center too? I don't exactly know the number, and we can get
Yeah.
back to you with that answer unless you know it.
Yeah, 1,100. So the tech center, we have 9 ascending schools for the tech center. Not all of the tech center is at Institute Road. We opened up a new hangar, which serves 4 of our programs at our new hangar at the airport with aviation, design tech, automotive, and pre-tech. So half of that population, I would say 200 students are there, and the balance is at BHS. But yeah, we will have more room for sure.
And we
And
need,
yes, more than
room to flex as we build more housing, and suddenly we have all these new kids. in our-
yes, that's our hope. With the
Yes.
hope-
Well, with full choice, you just got to recruit.
That is true.
No.
From the islands.
When everybody from CVU is listening to me, they'll be like, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, for true. Yes, yeah, but that was definitely, we did not build the Taj Mahal for sure as far as class sizes. And we kept that, we learned a lot actually from being at Macy's, the envelope of the building. But believe it or not, the old BHS did not have one conference room in it. So we have more conference rooms and one-on-one rooms for even our guidance counselors, our counseling office, our liaisons, and our and faculty and staff for meeting opportunities. And it is a community investment so that we have a separate entrance so that we can finally, the old BHS at 5 o'clock on a Friday, it was shut down because we were not accessible. So we could never use the auditorium for public events because of the inaccessibility. We could never have basketball or volleyball tournaments or indoor tournaments because of the accessibility to our gym. We had one gym. Now we have the opportunity, like other high schools, Essex, CVU, that can pull the curtain and divide the gym up to have 2 games going on at once. So it is very much a community investment, and we cannot wait to have it open year-round with dedicated tours for the public, similar to what we did when we showed the public the need for renovation.
You said there's $13.5 million in debt service, and I'm assuming that's the construction loan? Or
13 point, yes, in this budget, correct.
How long will that, what's the term of that loan?
Yes, so we are looking out at 20 years. Yeah, so it's not, but the highest borrowing has been these last 3 budgets. Yep, good question.
And with that, we can move on to our next item. Thank you so much, Jeff and Claire. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next up, we have discussion of city ballot items. So the first is tax fairness advisory question and the public safety tax increase. And we have Mayor Mulvaney Stanek with us. We're over here, and CAO Catherine Shad. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Shad, and
Shad,
Steph's
thank you.
not here today.
Oh, okay.
And I have a cold, so I'm gonna do my best, y'all, and I appreciate your patience with my head, and I'm gonna do way over
You
here.
are enough. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make sure I don't get near any of you. So actually, what I'm presenting tonight is not including the tax fairness question because that was not supported by the majority of the council. I'm happy to answer questions on that part. That item I think is still important for discussion in the community, but I'll focus tonight on where we're seeing the fiscal year 27 budget landing so far in our estimates, and then specifically on the tax rate increase that you'll see on the ballot come town meeting day. So we'll go to the first slide. I want to say something just briefly about our budgeting process in Burlington. I know we like to be unique, but our budgeting process is actually unlike pretty much any other town or school district in the state. And I mean that by saying it has been the practice for many, many years, predating the last several administrations, where the budget in detail has not been developed until well into the spring. Per charter, the mayor, much like the governor, delivers a budget to council, but it is not required until the middle of June. So out of sequence with town meeting day. And so unlike the school district, which does it much earlier, I came into this process 2 years ago, and everything is sort of beyond after town meeting day. So things were in estimates. I'm moving this process as early back each month that I've been mayor, each year, I should say, a month earlier, which is a big undertaking to move that culture and practice within a large institution like the city of Burlington. But we're moving it earlier this year to make sure that we're giving you sound numbers and justifications for the tax increase that you'll be considering on town meeting day. So we have an estimated structural budget gap again between 10 and 12 million. And I have some slides to explain why that is the case in Burlington. And we were joking about the size of the city budget. This is the budget that focuses on the general fund. So these are all of our general operating expenses. It does not include our enterprise funds, which include our electric utility company, BED, our water utility, our airport, parking services, and Church Street Marketplace. Those are not included in this kind of core budget. And so I just want to make sure you know that this is what we're talking about today. I'm also not one who reads every single bullet on every slide. These are going to be posted for you. I'm going to spare you that today. And when we start doing our estimates, of course, we start with some assumptions, and personnel is one of our biggest expenses in the city of Burlington. And so I'm going to go through the next few slides to tell you a little bit more about those personnel assumptions. Next slide. So we started with, of course, this current fiscal year's assumption around our personnel obligations. And then we did settle last year 2 new union contracts with our police and firefighters. These are the police officers. And this was unanimously supported by the city council. There are 3-year contracts. And in terms of our commitment to our first responders, these are important investments to help us with recruitment and retention to parts of our community safety strategy. In that settlement with the firefighters, that's BFFA is the acronym for the Firefighters Union, we agreed to add 2 new firefighters this fiscal year. That is because of safe staffing requirements. There was a study done about 3 years ago. This is us following through on that commitment to make sure those first responders have the staffing ratios they need. For both police and fire, you can see the cost of living agreements for the year was like year 2 of the contract. Those are comparable to regional salaries. You heard that from the school district's presentation. And again, I want to emphasize, we need to stay competitive to help us with our recruitment challenges, which every police agency is facing, to be clear, across the country. We're about to start to bargain with AFSCME, which represents the bulk of the rest of our city staff come February, March. And non-union, we usually set their rate of cost of living somewhat comparable to what the AFSCME's COLA will be. Next slide. Other personnel expenses, I always do a little personal advertisement that y'all, we really need to reform health insurance and help the healthcare system. It's broken and it is a huge pressure point for every employer, and we are an employer. So I think we need to blow it up and start over again. It is such a pressure point. The city is self-insured, which several years ago, probably in the 90s, it was actually a cost savings, a good to the advantage of the city to be a self-insured plan. Now it is just as costly as the other plans, and there's not other good options out there to pivot easily to. Our city staff deserve good benefits, and that is something we're committed to. But while I as mayor can't single-handedly change the 10% figure, it is something we as a state need to be finally courageous about and really address that. I want to emphasize everything that our school colleagues said before. Also, of course, retirement and workers' compensation are all rates that continue to go up each year. Next slide. So in terms of our operating expenses beyond personnel, a couple of quick highlights. We made an assumption, again, as we build this budget earlier, of estimating about 3% increase for the other operating increases. Cost of living is going up in all areas that directly attaches to other things that the city needs to pay for. And one quick note on fleet. Last year, I thank the voters for supporting our general obligation bond. A large portion of that went to supporting our fleet. That is our vehicles for the city. What we bond for are the big ones, the really expensive ones. Fire trucks are over $1 million, believe it or not now, and ladder trucks are even more expensive than that. And so while that bond helps us with the big ones, snowplows, et cetera, we have a lot of smaller vehicles, and we have really deferred the upkeep on these critical vehicles that take a lot of wear and tear. Think about our police vehicles, parking, et cetera, that travel a lot of miles. So we need to make investments this year. We cannot kick this one down the road any further so that our first responders and our staff can actually do their work. Next slide. So a couple slides on why we continue to have this structural budget gap. There's 3 main reasons. One is that our Our general fund is funded largely by our grand list, which is where we draw our property tax revenue from. It's not 100% of our revenue, but it's the majority. Our general list growth has been sluggish year after year, really averaging about 1%, which you can spend another time looking at all this graph, but these are the last 20 years of the size of our grand list. When you think about 1%, that's nowhere near the cost of living increases I was just mentioning. And so we've been sort of structurally building this gap year after year without generating more revenue from this grand list. So that's the first point. Second slide or next slide. Sorry, y'all, it's cold. Ugh. Second major issue is that we have become over-reliant, like many municipalities and states, on one-time funds. This really ballooned during COVID when ARPA money and federal dollars were plentiful, when we had a very different administration, frankly, during portions of time where federal grants were reliable. But the problem became when we were at a time with a lot of one-time funds coming in, especially ARPA, we used that to build out staffing and programs and services, which are meaningful and important, but didn't have a sustainable revenue source lined up after those one-time funds ended. That creates a bit of a gap and a challenge. So we are also trying to be mindful of weaning off of that, of course. The collections line, I'll come back to in a minute because this will be a continued strategy the city has for fiscal year 27 to close that gap. But every time we do collections, so think back property taxes, overdue parking tickets, that kind of stuff, you can't count on that same amount of money each year after year, right? Like once we've collected it, we've caught up and then we move on. There's a lot more to still collect though, so we just can't count that again for next year. Next slide. And the third and other reason, as I was just saying, is that we did grow the size of the workforce and our program and services significantly with a combination of the one-time funds and other decisions by the city between fiscal year 14 and fiscal year 24, which is right before I became mayor. That was a decision by council and mayor and different councils. Some of those positions are very important. Some of the ARPA funded positions were also quite important. A quick example is we created the CSO positions, community safety officers, and we expanded the community safety liaisons on top of that. We also started the RAB staffing on one-time funds at that time. And again, some of these, I just want to say, it's not like just easily just rip all those positions out. They're significant and important. However, they're ongoing operational expenses, and we have not grown, again, the revenue streams in a way that's sustainable. So now we're in this place where the structural budget gap is a challenge for the city, one that we can and are fixing, but it's going to take a few years for us to right size and fix our budget. So now on to how we're going to do that for next year. So we're going to use 3 strategies to close, again, what's estimated to be a $10 to $12 million budget gap through raising revenue very strategically and carefully, right-sizing government, and realizing some strategic opportunities in the city. Next slide. I feel like we have a flow already. I've been at some of these already. All right, so this is the big one. I want to make sure that I'm here to specifically answer questions on, because the budget, again, is still in development. But this question is on your ballot. It was approved by a bipartisan support majority of council last week, 9-3, to put a 5-cent increase on our police and fire splinter tax on the ballot. And that's required because voters approve any increases to our most of our splinter tax. I will be here all night if I explain our 14 different splinter tax that we have. So come bring me back some time with Catherine and we'll do a whole tutorial. It's convoluted, it's complicated, and it doesn't make budgeting very easy, but these 2 taxes are dedicated only to traditional police and fire expenses. So we thought this was very strategic and reasonable because when you look at the increase between this year and next year for police and fire, which are our 2 biggest budgets when you think of departments in the city, that estimates about $3.05 million. And so it's like a 1-for-1 scenario. Again, remember, these are investments in our union contracts that we bargain fairly with our unions. This is about investment in that fleet that those police and fire folks need. We felt like this was a very reasonable ask to provide to voters. Those splinter taxes, just for context, though, you'll see near the bottom, on their own, only raise about 16% of the expense to run our police and fire departments. So even though we have these dedicated taxes, the general fund, the general rate actually covers most of the expenses for these first responder departments. Next slide. So what does that mean for your tax bill? And so we took the medium assessed value for a home or condo in Burlington, which is about $353,000. And we applied that municipal tax rate increase And it will increase someone in that scenario's annual tax by $285. So if your home is assessed higher or lower, obviously it's higher or lower in terms of the tax impact. I do want to give people, just remind you about last year, we worked incredibly hard to give you the most modest increase possible. We used a penny that we had left from the last time voters authorized the public safety tax increase. And we also worked hard to minimize all of the expenses. We did a lot of right sizing that was very hard for the city. We reduced the workforce by 25. We have been working hard at this for the first 2 years since I've been mayor. We're continuing to do that this year. So this is truly our attempt to provide a balanced approach to solving this problem while keeping affordability front and center. Next slide. So this is a summary, and I'm about done now to give you a little bit of an overview of the 3 strategies. I've talked about the tax rate increase. That's the one that I really want to make sure I answer questions on tonight. Again, that will raise about $3 million is our estimate if it passes. We're going to use very carefully some additional one-time funds we found with some leftover pots of money, but we're running all of these different scenarios. So these numbers will keep changing as we get further into the budget development process. But we're looking, this is like looking under every stone, y'all. We're really trying hard yet again, and we've done this work 2 different times already. The enhanced collections is still on there. As I mentioned before, we have more work to do there. The right sizing 2 rows are important because I've had to ask department heads to go back every single general fund department, including police and fire for that matter, to look at where they can reduce further, 5% scenarios and 10% scenarios, because we cannot just put this on taxpayers, and we also cannot just cut our way out of this challenge that we have. So department heads have given me those proposals, and we're vetting those very carefully because it will result in some level of program and service reductions. And we're trying to be very careful, working collaboratively with council to figure out what are the essential and core services that the city really needs to maintain, and what are other services that perhaps we cannot afford to keep advancing. This is all going to shake out over the next few months. And so public comment and will be encouraged. Another quick example is we're looking at ways that we can be more creative and work with our unions, unlike last year where we had to resort to RIFs. Not saying that RIFs are completely off the table. They will be the last resort, but we're trying strategies like a voluntary furlough program to see what the uptick would be. A freeze strategy in terms of vacancies is another strategy we're costing out. We're really trying to work as creatively as possible to close this gap. The final one on here, again, may not make the final cut, but we own a lot of property, everyone. Like, we own a lot of property, which doesn't pay taxes. And so there's a few parcels, and there's literally 3 that we initially looked at that might be strategic for us to sell for a few different reasons. We can activate that for housing purposes, and if it's owned by a private entity, they would start paying taxes on a parcel that is not paying taxes to the city now. These 3 properties are very underutilized. They're not a strategic value to the city. They're small, but we're still costing that out to see if that's a feasible thing to actually count on or not. So that might change. Finally, we have a quick summary slide, which I'll leave on for just answering questions. You've already heard ballots will be mailed February 11th. Same day registration exists here in Burlington. If you don't get your ballot, talk to the folks at home in particular. I would say within a couple days after February 11th, please let us know and we can remail them. But with the postal system and whatnot, just remember you can vote same day, even if your ballot got lost and even if you have the ballot at home. And then again, just some timeline on the rest of the budget development process. I'm happy to take some questions.
Pension,
I'm not in charge.
I forgot I was supposed to be directing for a second. I was thinking about my questions. Alan, please go ahead. Yes, thank you.
pension and post-retirement benefits, how are they changing percentage-wise? Is that the other with the budget?
If my head wasn't with this cold, I would be able to rattle off what the retirement splinter tax. It's another splinter tax that is controlled by charter, though, so that does not require voter approval, and it's based on the formula of how the health of our pension fund is. The same thing with our debt service, and similarly, that has a formula per charter, not requiring voter approval. We have talked about that in Board of Finance meetings, so I will direct you to Civic Clerk in the time being. That is, I will say, we have more work to do on our retirement system. So once we while we're fixing the budget, we have to look at our pension system because it has been underfunded and it is an obligation that continues to grow. And so I know we have some more work to do. And I feel this is a full circle moment because before I was on city council 15 plus years ago, I served on a task force under Mayor Kiss at the time to look at why our retirement system is becoming so costly for the city and how do we find sustainable solutions. I think it's time that we have that same conversation. So more to come on retirement.
Other questions? Anna.
This might be a really simplistic question. When you say like the budget for police and fire, how is the budget allocated to police versus fire? And does it sort of change year to year? Is it dependent on staffing? Yeah, I don't know if that's.
Yep. So we have 12 general fund budgets, and then we have BD and airport, and then we have some within other departments like our water utilities within the DPW budget, but not counted for these calculations. So police and fire police is our biggest budget, fire is our second biggest budget. In that $38 million or so estimate, police is the majority, well, a little bit more than fire in that, but it's really driven by personnel cost. And right now, while we rebuild our police department in particular, there is a lot of overtime still. So when we have low officer headcount, we have to have adequate staffing for patrol. And so we have a lot of overtime that we're trying to juggle while doing the recruitment work that we need. Quick thing on recruitment though, even when you recruit a new officer, we swear it in, whatever the verb is, 2 new officers, 2 new female identified officers, which I'm really proud about, but they went off to the police academy for 16 weeks and then they don't come back and go right into policing on their own. They have to do field training in Burlington. So it's a slow build. So I mentioned these officers, but there's other personnel in the more expansive police department. We have prioritized in Burlington, which is important. So those CSO positions, the CSLs I mentioned, those are also within the police department.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a super quick follow-up question. When you said 6 vehicles for police and fire, does that mean fire trucks or?
Smaller fleets. So it means police cruisers. It means, and even in our fire department, there's smaller vehicles that are used like pickup trucks. Our CRT program, our community response team, which does sort of more mobile response to folks who are struggling with substance use, they use pickup trucks, for example. The smaller cars are the ones and trucks are the ones we put in the operating budget. The big ones like the fire trucks and snowplows and other big things are more costly. They get bonded for.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does the city employ a grant?
We do, yes. So we have a little grant team within the Department of Finance and Administration, and they've been hard at work. And now they're a little bit slow in the work because federal grants have significantly changed. And so they're having to adapt to find different resources. Things that used to be very reliable within the federal government have either been frozen or have stopped. And that's a tricky pressure point on those.
What's their percentage of getting grants? Approval.
Actually, off the top of my head, we have mostly worked with government grants, so federal and state, and it really depends on this grants are all across the city, which is why this is quite impactful when the federal government changes what used to be reliable.
Other question with retirement. Many corporations, large corporations, have done away with retirement. They fund a retirement through a what am I thinking?
401k.
401, thank you, a
Right,
401k.
switched over to.
Has the city considered stopping new hires as from getting an automatic pension to just have a 401k contribution?
So actually, that task force I mentioned studied that very question back in 2006-07, I think was when that task force did that work. Part of the challenge, of course, is that when you work for a city or any public entity in government, your salaries are far less usually than the private sector. And often pensions is where people make up that wealth when they retire. The defined benefit is a really important element that most cities have retained over the years. So for us to deviate from that would be a deviation from most other public government. And I will just say, as someone who really values labor and making sure that we bargain fairly with our unions and whatnot, that we be very careful about changing those, that going to a defined contribution that a 401k plan would be. And as I said earlier, we really have to look at our retirement system overall because there's other changes we could be making in terms of making sure that pension fund is in a more sustainable place. And that's some deep and long work that's really needed for the city. So more to come on that.
One question for you. Could you just remind us again of the calendar, the timeline for the budget development, and then when it's being put to voters?
Sure. So the tax rate will, that's fine. You don't have to put it back up. It's okay, Barbara. But the tax rate will be on the ballot on March 3rd. We're continuing to work with counselors confidentially because we're running a lot of those 10% reduction scenarios to see what their priorities are. And this is all so much earlier than in prior years. Usually the council engages after budget presentations in May, and we're moving everything. Obviously, we're just in February. We started in January with counselors. We'll probably be bringing more detailed. We will be bringing more detailed reports to Board of Finance over February and March, and then in April we'll be presenting by department. We call them the budget nights. That used to be in May, and they will all be in April this year as we continue the march to make this earlier. The council will officially deliver the budget probably maybe even in May this year. So the budget sits with council longer, and then the council must pass a balanced budget by June 30th per charter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Another short question. If I saw correctly, you said there was roughly like 98 positions that were added in the last 10 years.
Yep.
Was there any reevaluation of, and there was a bunch of money that came in for COVID, I get that, so you had to, but was there a reevaluation of the 98 positions if they're really, if they're still contributing relative to, I mean, the city grown that much since 10 years ago, or the justification of those positions?
Sure. Well, last year when we were building fiscal year 26 budget, which is what we're currently operating under, a year ago, January, we did an entire general fund review. We asked everyone to do what we called a service inventory to look at all the programs across what was in everyone's budget to get really clear on what are essential and core services to inform this year's budget. And through that, we looked at every role, not just these 98, because our priorities and our needs of a city are different today than they were 10 years ago. And even 20 years ago. So I wanted a comprehensive review. That went to help inform what eventually became some staff reductions in positions and some reorganizations of the city. We merged, for example, Business Workforce Development Department and CEDO together because they were doing some overlap work among some other changes. I'm asking folks to do that again, to use that review we did a year ago, and then look a little bit deeper and look a little bit more clearly on what's still essential and core for the city. Those 98 positions, about somewhere like 35 to 40 of them were the ARPA one-time funds. And we've already eliminated, even before my time, some of those roles. We had, I cannot remember the official name of it, but CEDO ran like a COVID recovery center for information purposes. Those positions don't exist anymore already. So some of this has already been happening just based on the time-sensitive nature of some of those roles.
So that's not a net value, but it's another reason you're not saying that it still is increased by 98 people. It's more that some of those positions have gone away. There's potential.
Right. And then, of course, like Mark is on, we've added a couple positions here, reduced other positions there over these first 2 years since I've been mayor. So that 98 positions is just an interesting fact to look at that 10-year span when overall the general fund has a total of about 450 employees total.
Okay.
So that I should have probably added that there. For
Yeah,
context.
no, just get a feel.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we can wrap up there because we have one more item on the agenda. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna go home if that's okay. I usually say
You're fine. Yeah, it's okay.
they're gonna do great and ask them lots of questions.
Thank you. Thank
much.
you.
Our next item on the agenda is the proposed racial equity, inclusion, and belonging charter change. We have REIB Director Kelly Perkins here.
She's not here this.
We do not have her here. We have.
I am Christian Berry.
Thank you so
My
much.
pronouns are she, they. I'm the Communications and Community Engagement Manager.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for being here.
Belonging Program Manager.
Thank you very much. We just did note we have statements from our two city council members, which we can either do at the beginning or end your preference.
Yeah, can we do those right at the end?
Yeah, absolutely.
And this will probably take like 5 minutes, so we'll have plenty of time for questions and for those comments.
Thank you very much.
So again, my name is Christian Berry. I'm the Communications and Community Engagement Manager with the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. Thank you for allowing us some time this evening to just talk about the proposed charter change to make our office an official part of city government. So this evening, I'm just going to walk you through 4 key points. We're going to talk about what is the proposed charter change, what are voters being asked to decide, What does the REIB do? And a little context around that as it relates to city governance. And what are the implications for this change in Burlington? So on March 3rd, Burlingtonians will cast their votes to decide whether or not to add the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging to the city's charter. The city charter is a foundational document that outlines the organization, powers, and functions of our city government, including defining which parts of city government are permanent. While equity and inclusion efforts have been a fundamental part of the City of Burlington's initiatives since the early 2000s, incorporating the REIB into the city's charter makes these efforts a permanent part of the city's government's infrastructure. To help inform your decision, I just want to take a couple of minutes to explain the work of the REIB and its significance with the city. So diversity, equity, inclusion are practical tools for evaluating how well our systems work. They help us look at how city services, policies, and workplaces are designed, who they reach, and whether they work effectively for the people who rely on them. This is about systems and outcomes, not individual beliefs. Burlington is the second most diverse city in our state, with residents of different languages, abilities, ages, incomes, and lived experiences. And recognizing this helps the city understand that one-size-fits-all approaches do not work. Equity means recognizing that people start from different places and that fair access sometimes requires different approaches, like accessible buildings, captioned videos, flexible work arrangements, or multiple ways to engage with city services. These are practical design choices, not ideological ones. And inclusion focuses on whether people feel welcomed, informed, and able to participate in their city. When we apply this DEI lens, city systems work better and serve the whole community more effectively. Next slide. Thank you. So there's a few examples of how the REIB works across city government and with stakeholders to ensure city services are effective, fair, accessible, and informed by the needs of the people who rely on them. And I'll just touch on a few. So in supporting city departments in the development, coordination, and implementation of programs and services to ensure consistency and accessibility. We provide training, education, and guidance for city staff, boards and commissions, community stakeholders, and the Burlington School District. We create structured and informal ways for community members to engage directly with their city government. A few examples of this is our Trusted Community Voices team, which represents 7 of our city's immigrant and refugee communities, bringing lived experiences and community insights to inform projects, programs, and policy implementation. We host community conversations on topics impacting our community, such as partnering with a special assistant to end homelessness to engage community members in this important discussion. We also hold monthly REIB City Council subcommittee meetings where constituents have an opportunity to engage directly with city councilors and REIB staff. Why this matters for Burlington. Inclusive governance. The city of Burlington is one of the most diverse cities in the state. And as such, Burlington has a responsibility to prioritize work that fosters inclusivity by reflecting the diverse identities, experiences, and needs of all community members. It strengthens economic opportunity. Studies show that diverse and inclusive environments contribute to innovation, creativity, and productivity, enhancing the overall economic vitality of the city, creating job growth and attracting new businesses. It enhances community well-being and community resilience. By addressing systemic barriers and fostering an inclusive environment, we create a stronger social fabric that promotes trust, collaboration, and belonging. This approach not only benefits individuals from diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds, but also enhances the quality of life for the entire community, leading to a more engaged, resilient, and thriving city where everyone can participate fully and feel valued. So this vote asks whether the work of the office should be a permanent core function of city government. This isn't new work for Burlington. For decades, city departments have been addressing equity, access, and inclusion. The REIB simply provides coordination, expertise, and continuity for work that already exists. Decisions about staffing and funding remain part of the regular budget process and are separate from whether the office is established in the charter. For context, the REIB makes up 0.7% of the city's general fund and has never exceeded 1%. Like all general fund city departments, the REIB is currently planning for 5 to 10% budget reduction scenarios. Establishing this work as permanent helps ensure coordination, consistency, and clarity, especially during tight budget years. So the city systems continue to work effectively for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we move to questions, I'll just read two statements we have from our city council members who were not able to join us this evening, but I want to make sure that their perspectives were shared on this issue. Council member Buddy Singh shares the following. Voters will decide whether to the city charter to make the Office of Racial Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging a permanent part of city government. In recent years, Burlington has made meaningful progress toward ensuring that policies and services serve all residents by centering voices that are vital to the Burlington of tomorrow. These perspectives are essential to the continued growth of our workforce, schools, and day-to-day city operations. Through initiatives such as Trusted Community Voices, the Aging Council, and the Language Access Program, REIB has strengthened community resilience in the face of growing challenges. By building on this momentum, REIB will help lay the foundation for a stronger, more modern Burlington. Enshrining this office in the city charter protects its work across administrations and builds on the present while preparing us for the future. Council member Becca McKnight added the following. I strongly support this charter change because equity, inclusion, and belonging are not optional values. They are core infrastructure for a functioning city. I serve on the REIB committee, and I see up close how this work shapes better policies, better services, and better outcomes for residents. Putting REIB in the charter makes a clear statement. This work is permanent, it matters, and it will not be quietly sidelined when budgets get tight or politics shift. If we are serious about being a city that works for everyone, then we have to be serious about embedding equity into how we govern. This charter change does exactly that. With that, thank you so much for the presentation. I would open up for any questions that we have on the topic.
I'm curious how the REIB group interfaces with other aspects of government. So are you going to like police and telling them how they can better approach their work? Are you interfacing with other, education?
Yeah, so we work across all city departments. And so our director sits on the executive leadership team and so sits with the department heads, including the police chief and the fire chief, to really work through equity-based approaches in their work as it relates to what they do. Members of our team, we work across city departments to do education and training. We are working with recruitment and retention initiatives with HR. We really are, our reach is wide. Yeah. And we also work with community partners, community-based organizations, and stakeholders. So I said BSD, but specifically we work with the Burlington City and Lake Semester Program, and they have a social justice component to their work. We go in and provide some of the education and training in that space as well.
Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I love
Can you introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, can you move
and the mic? Yeah.
My name is Teresa DeMars. I'm a Ward 6 resident as of the summer, but I used to work in local government in Massachusetts in the DEI office. So it's very cool to hear all of this. Y'all are obviously doing amazing work. Really great to hear. We heard a lot about successes. What are some of the challenges that your office is facing right now, and how can people be more supportive of that?
Yeah, I think one of the things is actually just getting out in front of folks and talking more about what we do and sharing that information. I think there's still a lack of understanding sometimes of people thinking we're just doing like events and not really understanding the breadth and the scope of work that we do within city government to really create an infrastructure that is equity based and how that impacts our community members in terms of accessing services, getting information. And so I think just the education and having the opportunity to come together with folks is something that we're hoping to do more of. I think also the budget reality, like we were an office, I think maybe 2 years ago when I started, of 14 folks, and now we're at a staff of 5, but we have 4 folks right now. And so just this if we're citywide, then that's a really big lift for four people. And so just recognizing that, and most importantly, what's happening at the federal level. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I think wanting to echo what Christian has said about wanting also folks to understand that this work is actually for everybody. I think sometimes folks get stuck on our office supporting and interfacing only with certain groups of people, and we just want folks to really know that we are here for all, everybody in the city. And if anybody, has questions about that, has anything that they need from us, has any thoughts, anything, like, we are super, super open to hearing that and really want to hear about it. So thank you. And, thank you for the questions to come as well.
Yeah, just to add to that, we always say, racial equity is the first part of our line, of our name. And we're always going to lead with race because systemically we have to address the barriers and the challenges and the injustices. But there's also inclusion and belonging. And we really are about the inclusion and belonging piece. And so we want to also make sure people are aware of that.
Remy, you had a question?
Yeah, I know the city has, I think, what is it, 18 departments or something like that?
It was 18, and through the Modern Gov initiative, I think we're at 14, because some of those, as the mayor was saying, like CEDO and BWD combined, but they are also now under like DFA.
And my thing is that, are you guys able to function the same way you guys are, even if the charter doesn't pass meeting day?
That's the hope.
Okay.
That's our plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I know the city was talking about having budget problem.
Mhm.
I'm wondering how that affects having an additional department that does not exist at this time.
So I think if I'm understanding, do you mind if I?
No, go ahead.
So I think if I'm understanding you correctly, I don't think this would happen, but like, let's say if, in a crazy world, if a city council and a mayor wanted to, and the office wasn't chartered, they could theoretically dissolve the office. That's, not necessarily something we're worried about, but like, future, especially with all of the attacks at the federal level, but the charter prevents that from happening unless there's another charter change. And it puts it on par with the rest of the city departments and offices.
Okay, so in
Yeah.
other words, having codified protects them.
Exactly.
Yes, yep.
Review your comments, go ahead.
Can I do a comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Fareed.
I mean, we'll see about that because that's what happened with Burlington Telecom. They still sold that, but so I want to make a comment in support of this ballot question. I'm now talking as a volunteer for the People's Kitchen Project. We have been getting help from the department in our work. Like last year, we were able to get a cargo bike. Then the communities that we serve here, actually, we do a weekly food and produce delivery at South Meadow, which is low income, like, primarily refugee and immigrant neighborhood, but also a good like third of the population are Vermonters who have been here for like 7 generations. Also, we also do free dinners downtown 3 nights of the week, and we serve mainly our on-house neighbors, which are all again mostly white folks. And despite the some rumors that there are other people from out of state coming to Vermont because of its benefit, what we found actually is a lot of these folks are actually formerly DCF kids who now are also dealing with the Department of Children and Families. Like, so when they were little, they were taken away from their family, and now like they've got their kids taken away by the DCF. This is like, we are talking about like generational poverty that we're dealing with. So, but with the help of the department, we've been able to have more capacity, and we're able to reach folks who are like sleeping outside, but not necessarily reachable through car. With the cargo bike, like now we are serving more people, and every time we've dealt with the staff at the department, they've been very helpful. So please support this this ballot question. Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. That's what I'm. Clear.
Thanks. I also serve as the chair of the RAB committee on the council, and I want this to pass. And I think it's important for it to pass. It's a big statement to our neighbors. It really is. We deal with structural racism, but we also have a lot of issues with classism as well. And Freed gives a fantastic example of the different types of populations that exist in our city that would benefit from the work of this department, and just also raising awareness. And I appreciate the messages that my fellow counselors left. They're really important, and I'm thankful for their support. At the same time, we have to watch what's going on at council, because when hard issues of equity like police oversight and accountability come to the table, we don't always do the right thing. And this is part of doing the right thing, helping to educate our community so that we're doing the best we can for each other, so we can be in a better place, especially what's in light. I'm a Black woman on the city council who is told multiple times I'm a DEI hire. I ran 2 elections and I won. So this dialogue is in our community, and people are still trying to be naive about it, but it's in our community. And encouraging your neighbors to vote, especially in this ward, would be it would be a blessing. And as again, a really strong statement about where our values lie. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments on this? Okay, thank you so much, everyone. With that, I think we will adjourn this evening's discussion. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and for your thoughts and your questions and your votes. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.
And we still have some food to go if you want.